Dan and Amy coming to you live from Signature Bank, kicking off our Signature Bank business tour today. Coming to doing live remotes at businesses around the Chicago metropolitan area to give everybody some hope. There are successful business people out there doing great things, and we want to profile their success along with our friends at Signature Bank, the business bank in Chicago, and my business bank. And Amy, yesterday, in addition to, of course, the Gorsuch nomination and all the hoopla surrounding that.
Yeah, it was a nice rollout.
Yeah, well,
actually.
yeah, it was.
It was nice. It was presidential. It was smooth.
But you had a lot of Republican senators in a bad mood, too, like Ornery Orrin Hatch, because he was feeling lonely in the Senate.
Yeah, there's two confirmation hearings, one for Price, one for Steve Mnuchin, and the Democrats were no-shows. They're trying to take a stand against Donald Trump's travel ban.
Yeah, they're boycotting.
Yeah, they're boycotting, and Orrin Hatch, he's not happy.
Well, they are idiots. Anybody would do something like that. It's just a complete breach of decorum. It's a complete breach of committee rules. It's a complete breach of just getting along around here.
Yeah.
I mean,
call it like he sees it, idiots.
That's right, very pithy. But look, I'm fine if the Democrats want to abdicate, we'll just use the 54 Republican senators, and we'll just move the agenda with the 54. That's fine. It's like when the Democrats fled Wisconsin during during the siege on Madison. They all wanted to stay at the clock tower in Rockford.
Yeah.
Probably go to the Tilted Kilt up there. Have. Just enjoy themselves. That's fine. Republicans in Wisconsin just went ahead and moved Walker's budget repair bill and started to turn Wisconsin around. Well, that's what the Republicans in the Senate can do if the Democrats don't want to participate. That's not a problem. For more on this topic and Trumponomics more generally, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Steve Moore, Chief Economist of the Heritage Foundation. Steve, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Good morning. I know you're not a lawyer, you're an economist, but you're allowed to weigh in on matters that are not directly economics related. Your reaction to Trump's Supreme Court pick?
I like him. I think Gorsuch is, for everything that I know about him, is someone who is fairly strict constructionist, and that means someone who will look for the authority in the Constitution for the federal government to take power and to pass laws, and I think that's exactly what's needed. It's interesting how the left has really reacted so violently against this pick. I mean, first of all, who did they think they were going to get? I mean, Donald Trump was very clear in the election that he was going to take someone who was pro-life, that he was going to take someone who was believed in the Constitution, and so I think he's going to pass. Although I do see this kind of hell no to everything Trump wants to do kind of stand by the Democrats. And these are the same people, by the way, 4 months ago when they thought that Hillary was going to be the president, said, let's all come together, and it's time to end all this bipartisan, spats in Washington and get things done. And of course, now they're singing exactly a different tune.
What about your friend Steve Mnuchin yesterday at his confirmation hearing and nobody showed up? Well, besides the Republicans.
Well, look, Trump won the election. He gets to pick his cabinet. I wasn't feeling really good 8 years ago when Obama won, and obviously he got to pick his cabinet. And I think there may be one or two people in the Obama cabinet that Republicans objected to and put a hold on, but not half of the nominees. I mean, this is ridiculous. What they're doing is basically making it very difficult for Trump to govern because he doesn't have his cabinet in place. I mean, that's why you have this hullabaloo over what happened at the Justice Department, because his Attorney General has not been approved yet. If his Attorney General had been approved, there would have been no controversy at all.
Steve, I want to turn to economics. Greg Mankiw, who is a Harvard economist, as you know, professor
I know
of economics
Greg.
at Harvard. He posted in his blog on Monday, he's essentially summarized what he takes to be the Republican tax relief plan. Three parts. Impose a retail sales tax on consumer goods and services, both domestic and imported. Use some of the proceeds from the tax to repeal the corporate income tax or greatly reduce it. Use the rest of the proceeds from the tax to significantly cut the payroll tax. That's how he summarizes it, and if his summary is correct, he says he likes that plan. Is that a fair summary on what you think should be done and what Republicans are moving in the direction to do?
Well, look, I mean, why mention the Mankiw piece? Not mention the piece that Larry Kudlow and I had in the Wall Street Journal, which I think is becoming the blueprint. And what we basically said was, because we helped Trump write the plan in the first place, is let's do the business. So there's three parts to this, okay? Write this down, guys. So number one, you do the business tax cut first. So you get those business rates, tax rates down from the highest in the world, not just on our corporations, but on every one of the 26 million small businesses in this country. So you get the business tax rates down. That's a big job creator. Number two, you do the repatriation. So you allow companies with money abroad, companies like General Electric and Microsoft and Apple, to bring that money back to the United States at a 10% tax rate. That's going to create, it's going to actually raise about $1 trillion of revenue over the next 10 years, and it's going to be more money for jobs here in the United States. And number three, you use the money to raise from the from the repatriation for an infrastructure fund that pays for the infrastructure that Trump wants to do. And you put that out there as a first 100-day jobs bill. And let's see how many Democrats we can get. I mean, the Democrats have been saying for 5 years they want an infrastructure bill. Trump can put it out there for them, combined with the business tax cut. I actually think you could potentially get that done with 75 votes in the Senate. And you wouldn't even need the reconciliation process. You can do it through what's called regular order.
I mean, I'm sorry I didn't reference your piece with Larry
What do you
Kudlow.
think?
I was just trying to highlight that a Harvard economics professor agrees with you.
Yeah, well, Greg Mackey is a great economist. He's a smart guy. He was for Bush one of the chief economists over there. He and I are good friends. So great minds think alike. But the main point, though, I want to emphasize to your listeners is, let's not delay. This idea of putting off the tax cut until July or August is really bad for the economy. It jeopardizes the tax cut from getting done at all. And what we say is Trump should say, we're going to get this done in the first 100 days. They say, well, too many Republicans say, well, we can't. We're concentrating on Obamacare. I mean, since when can't the Republicans walk and chew gum at the same time?
So where could we see these 25 million jobs that Donald Trump promised he'd create in the United States?
Yep. Cut taxes.
Well, this is going to get you a lot of those jobs, that's for sure. If you do this business tax cut and you do if we go, Amy, from overnight from being the highest tax rate country in the world to one of the lowest, and you do the deregulation that Trump talked about, was it yesterday? Or I can't even keep track of when all these things are happening. They're happening in such a flurry of activity. But if you cut back the regulations and cut the business tax rate in half, you're going to get millions of new jobs every year. So I've always believed 25 million jobs over the next 10 years is very achievable.
Jeb Hensarling, chairman of the Financial Services Committee in the House, has said that he expects Dodd-Frank to be substantially repealed by year's end. Is that realistic?
We got to get rid of Dodd-Frank for sure. What it's done this was supposed to be a regulation that was going to regulate the big banks and some of the behavior that led to the financial crisis. And instead, as you guys know, what it's done is actually led to more power to the big banks. Is the small banks can't possibly, they don't have the money to comply with these new standards. You have to have basically compliance officer for every loan officer you have if you're a small business community bank. And so I want to roll back those regulations on the small banks because I want to see community banks flourish again in this country. Right now, they're just being eaten up by the big banks. If we stay on the path we're on, we're going to have 5 major mega banks. They're going to be regulated like utilities. They're going to be bailed out every time they get into a financial difficulty, and that's exactly the wrong model. So Jeb Hensarling is exactly on the right course here. And the financial regulations are strangling our small businesses in communities, and that means it's harder and harder for local businesses to get loans to grow their businesses. It's that simple.
Hey, Steve, as an Illinois native, I wanted you to weigh in on this. Caterpillar making a big announcement yesterday that they're moving their corporate headquarters to Chicago. At first blush, 300 executives, suggesting they'll keep most of their workforce in central Illinois, Peoria. But I wonder if Trump will weigh in on something as substantial as that, because it really cuts to something that he spent a lot of time talking about in the campaign, even implicitly, which is places like central and southern Illinois withering on the vine. And obviously Caterpillar substantially, even partially pulls out of Peoria. It's devastating to central Illinois.
Where are they moving to?
Chicago.
Downtown Chicago.
What? They're moving where?
Chicago, downtown.
Okay. You mean they're moving out of Peoria into Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a
Higher
partial
level.
move, 300 executives, but it's still a move,
I
and it
see.
says something about their future in Peoria. They also canceled a planned expansion in Peoria, so
Got it.
they're, it's obviously concerning if you're in Peoria or you work for CAT.
Well, look, I think if Trump is going to be a successful president, if he's going to be reelected, he has to bring economic development to these areas of the country that have been wiped out. That I traveled around the country, as you guys know, for Donald Trump and with Donald Trump during the campaign, and you saw a lot of areas that have just been hollowed out, devastated by high taxes, high regulation, in some case trade, but I think more it's just self-inflicted wounds that we've imposed on ourselves. I'll go back to what I said before. If you get the taxes down, if you get the regulations off the back of businesses, I think a lot of I think you're going to see a redevelopment in these areas. A special problem for inner cities because it's not just a problem of economic development. You've got to do something about the schools. You've got to do something about crime. It's interesting to me. I don't know if you guys have noticed what's happening with Betsy DeVos, who has the gall to say maybe we should allow kids in failing school districts to have more choices about where they send their kids to school. And the teachers' unions, of course, are going completely ballistic over that. The Democrats are now threatening not to confirm Betsy DeVos because she's not towing the teacher union line. Democrats care more about teachers' unions than they do about kids.
All right, he is Steve Moore, Chief Economist for the Heritage Foundation. Steve, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Have a great day, guys. See you soon.
Thanks. You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.